See, out there, you just have to follow a pattern that someone's already laid out for you. In the life we live, you have to set your own patterns, your own ideals. They tried to call it paranoia, overthinking, too sensitive, too deep. But it was never any of that. The thing you've been punished for your whole life is actually the proof that your sight is real. The world they built wasn't made for you. This place you were born into was pre-designed, pre-packaged paths, pre-approved truths, pre-scripted roles handed out like captivity uniforms. And yet, you refused, even before you had language for it. Even before you knew what chosen meant, something in you just knew. This isn't it. Not because you were rebellious, but because you were awake. Your perception didn't let you sleep through the matrix like the rest. You weren't built to play pretend. You could feel the tension between what they said and what they meant. Even as a kid, the room could be smiling, and you'd feel the storm. They told you to be quiet, but your body was already speaking in frequencies they didn't understand. So while others adapted, you absorbed. You took on energies that weren't yours. Tried to decode the silence behind every smile, the tension behind every hug. And somewhere along the way, they mistook your awareness for attitude, when it was really just your soul refusing to play dumb. You came here with a truth sensor. Not external, not trained, not taught. Built in. And no matter how many distractions they threw at you, fame, fear, family, fantasy, you couldn't shake it. You couldn't unsee what your spirit was picking up on. You didn't fall for shiny illusions, because your soul was scanning for resonance, not reward. What the world condemned in you was the very thing that kept you free. They taught you that multitasking was efficient, but they never told you that every yes to distraction was a no to your calling. They wanted you scattered, because a scattered mind can't hear divine instruction. But even in your confusion, your spirit was cataloging the truth for later. You tried to play the part, fit in, wear the costume of normal, and hope it would quiet the noise inside you. But the longer you ignored the inner knowing, the louder it screamed. Because you weren't here to go along, you were here to remember. Others could lie to themselves and call it success. You couldn't. Others could trade their knowing for comfort. You wouldn't. And it wasn't because you thought you were better. It was because your nervous system literally rejected the lie. Your spirit would shut down. Your joy would die off. You'd feel sick in spaces that others called home. That's not dysfunction. That's divine perception self-defending. You were never broken. You were just in an environment that couldn't hold your frequency. You spent years wondering what was wrong with you, only to realize the real question was, what's wrong with this world that it couldn't honor you? Your body became the alarm clock your mind didn't want to hear. It would shake you out of fake friendships, toxic jobs, shallow romances. Even when it hurt to walk away, something in you refused to settle for comfort over truth. And that refusal, that was your compass working in real time. The people around you couldn't understand. They called it self-sabotage, said you were always starting over. But they didn't know you were following breadcrumbs left by your higher self. Each disruption, a divine reroute toward alignment. They called you intense. Too much. Hard to be around. But truth is, your presence exposed what they were hiding. When you walked in the room, masks got tight. When you loved someone, they had to face their own lack. When you spoke truth, their illusions cracked. You weren't attacking. You were just clear. And in a world built on fog, clarity feels violent. People didn't resist you because you were wrong. They resisted you because you were right before they were ready. You didn't just challenge their behavior, you challenged their worldview. And nothing terrifies the unconscious more than being seen clearly. Your clarity didn't just pierce others, it held up a mirror. And not everyone's ready to look. You made people feel seen when they were hoping to stay hidden. So instead of rising to meet the energy, they blamed the light for being too bright. You spent years wondering if dimming yourself would make you more lovable. Then you realized it didn't, because the people meant for you don't flinch at your light. They remember theirs because of it. For years you probably tried to tone it down, make it digestible, water it down, blend in. But let's be real, you were never meant to blend. You were meant to break spells, to rattle frequencies, to remind people what real feels like. That's the real reason they couldn't handle you. But dimming your light didn't make you safer, it just made you silent. And silence started to feel like self-betrayal. You weren't put here to be palatable. You were put here to be potent, to disrupt, to awaken, to activate. And every time you made yourself smaller for their comfort, a piece of your truth wilted in your chest. You don't just see through people, you see through time. Through mass, through frequency, through dimensions. You are the glitch they couldn't patch, the watcher they couldn't fool, the mirror they couldn't cover. They called it a flaw, but it was your fingerprint. Perception is your superpower, and you're here to master it. Never settle.